Hey everybody, it's Sarah Norris
and Carrie Eink
from the STAR Institute for SPD, and we are really excited to be shifting in a different direction. So for those of you that have been with us for a while, we've done a lot of kind of talking point things on Facebook Live, but for 2018 we're really wanting to highlight the people that we work with, the people we are, and really what SPD looks like a little bit more close up. So today we're going to be talking about a little bit about our story, and then the next time we do a Facebook Live we're going to be sharing a little bit more about our personal stories, with the idea of moving into this whole year, at least this next period of time, being about people's stories, because everybody's so different and so unique, and we come to this as a community, and the more that we know about each other, the more we can effectively collaborate together. So we're excited to be moving in this direction.
Yeah, I think starting to talk about this, I think shining the spotlight on all of you who are listening, all of you who are in a family or you're an individual yourself struggling with SPD, I think hearing your story is so important. But I think even as we begin talking about it, we know how vulnerable and how scary this can be, telling your story. We know, we talk in all of our previous videos about how SPD can affect so many other lives and how it can affect everything that you do, in going to the grocery store, waking up in the morning, getting ready for work, getting ready for school, and in turn it affects a lot of people around you. And so I think in thinking about that, we know the vulnerability associated with it, but the power in other people hearing your story and the acceptance, the validation, and just sharing all the successes that also happen along the way can be really important.
So thinking about the story of our program here, it definitely is not just a one-person or even a two-person story. And this is similar to when we're talking about individuals and how their stories are not just about them. And Carrie and I were talking earlier today about how did we get where we are. And one of the things that happened is, if we go back to the beginning of this program, it really came from you guys out there, contacting our center and saying, what is out there for adults and adolescents? We really need this. And at the time when those requests were being made, we didn't have that in place yet. But we heard it and we thought about how can we make this happen. And so even before Carrie and I came to STAR, that thought process was in motion.
Yeah, and before coming here, it was really a big part of Dr. Miller's vision. You know, she had created this program and this really well-oiled machine for kids and their families, and we were finding awesome results with kids who had SPD, not only just for the kids, but for the whole family dynamic. And so shifting into thinking about adolescents and adults, we know that it's a lifelong condition. And so how can we tailor this model for those populations? That there are other programs out there in the world for adolescents and adults with SPD, but not yet with the STAR model and what we do here. Our vision is treating the whole family, looking at it from all angles, using our relationships to nurture independence, nurture joy in life. And so really starting to think, we sat down with her. It happened to be around the time both Sarah and I were starting our employment here, and Dr. Miller approached both of us and said, will you two help me continue to grow this vision? And I don't even know that either of us knew how much of a passion it would become. I think it was an interesting concept, and I think like a lot of OTs out there, it was a little bit scary to think about, because we had grown to be such growing experts in the fields of PEDS and SI, and thinking about, okay, let's think about teens and adults. What does that look like? And so then starting to think about the process and starting to meet you guys, starting to meet the individuals, the adolescents, the parents of the adolescents, the adults, their spouses, it really became clear that this is such a need right now in all communities, that there isn't near enough education, treatment, evaluation options out there for you, and it really just kind of snowballed from there.
So it is something that is still in its infancy. We don't have all the answers yet. We don't have all of the research. We don't have all of the assessment tools. And it's something that we're learning with each individual and each family that comes through the doors or calls us on the phone. And that's an exciting stage to be in. But going back to what Carrie said about it being a little bit scary and even intimidating at times, we have to stay honest with you guys. You know, we might be called experts, we might be called leaders in this area, but we're really more just pioneers. And it's something that we want more people to be involved in this process with us. We don't want it to be this standalone thing. We really have the vision of this becoming part of the greater conversation in mental health, well-being, even development, talking about how growth continues through the lifetime, and how it's something that we want it to just become way more accepted, yes, but also just considered. So one of the things that I know I saw a lot when I was working in the school system was individuals of all ages, but especially teenagers, and then when teenagers were graduating from high school, just very, very little understanding about what those needs might look like for someone who has sensory processing challenges, and little to no services. And that really created a heart in me, and that'll be part of my story that I share next time. But just recognizing that this is a real thing, and it does create real challenges in not only the individual's life, but the whole system around that individual. It affects teachers, it affects their parents, it affects their girlfriends and boyfriends and significant others, and eventually their children. So making it this lifespan, we all need support through our lifespan when we have medical challenges, when we have psychiatric challenges, and neurological challenges as well.
Yeah, and I think when we zero in on what many of us OTs are doing in the pediatric population is we're getting really good at educating parents on what's going on with your child and how to parent, and giving you advice on parenting and what maybe you can do for the morning routine, what you can do at night. But shifting into those teenage and adult years, I know we've talked about this several times within the other topics that we've talked about, but what happens as you grow developmentally is that there comes an age when you're starting to wonder more about yourself, and you're starting to wonder about your own challenges. And with your parents holding all of that information and going through several years of a lot of stresses, a lot of ups, a lot of downs, some of that information gets lost, and everybody's kind of sitting there wondering, okay, we felt like we had a really good grasp on it when we had you in OT as a child, or maybe you didn't seek out services when they were a kid, and you're a parent who's sitting there in the teenage years saying, I should have done this when they were 5. But if we don't have services to just begin teaching your adolescent alongside of you as a parent, or as an adult if you're just exploring it for the first time as an adult, or you remember, I got OT when I was 5 and it was really fun, and I was on my stomach on the swing and I was grabbing these animals, but I have no idea why, and I really don't understand why I'm still having troubles at work, or now I'm having troubles in my relationship. And maybe you don't have your parents to ask, or your parents have lost that information along the way. It's so important that there's somebody there you can go to say, okay, I need an evaluation. I need you to understand this evaluation that I have in my hands, or I've never had an evaluation. I need this explained for the first time in relationship to me, and how does this relate to my new occupations and my new area of life? And shifting it, I think that can be such a profound experience for a parent when you can shift kind of that understanding and education with your child, rather than having to be the one who's educating your child and sitting along next to them, or, you know, as they continue to get older, they're coming in with their spouse and their spouse is learning. I think it's such an amazing kind of transformation that happens throughout our lifespan that can really promote further joy and further success from even what you might be achieving at any point.
And I think you brought up something so important, and I want to highlight it, is how much SPD can impact your sense of self. And just that understanding of yourself and being able to identify what you need and how to get that, and doing problem solving. All of those things are things that we see all the time. And I think it's just so important to work with the teens and the adults in filling in those gaps in their stories. And this, that makes sense, and this is why. And being able to fill in those gaps, I think has been transformative for many of my clients, and even myself, learning more about my sensory needs and filling in gaps of questions I've had since a child. It's just made me feel so much different.
Yeah, and I think knowing that you're not alone, whether, you're a teenager, I find that I have so many teens and adults telling me, I can't believe you're actually nodding your head and saying that this is real, and that even though I'm telling them, yes, I've seen other teens like this. I've seen other adults just like you, and they have the same kind of things going on with their spouse. I think as much as I can tell, people that I've seen other people like this is where that storytelling, I'm going to kind of circle back to the storytelling. And I'm a professional who can, share in general that I've seen. This isn't the first time I've seen this, but I think there's so much more value and power in hearing from the other person and hearing from you guys about what you're experiencing and joining together in sharing those stories.
So we're really, really looking forward to not only hearing your stories. I think that's really one of the greatest benefits we have in working with this population, is it's not just play. There's an enjoyable relationship that comes out of working with an adolescent and an adult. And there becomes this knowingness when you're working with someone of, I get it, I understand you, I can see you, I hear you. That's really important for our clients to have, and I think because of who we are, it's really meaningful for Carrie and I to provide that for individuals. But we want to do more to spread that to this community. We don't want to be holding all the stories. We want to share the stories, and we're going to start next time by sharing our own stories and why we have become so passionate about this, and why we have a lot of dreams for this program and for this community in the future. So if you're interested in sharing your story with us and with this community in any capacity, you can comment below, you can send us a private message. We definitely want to talk about preserving confidentiality if there are things that you want to make anonymous, all of that. We just want to make this more of a community story, not just us coming at you with information. That only gets us so far in treating this, and we want to move into more of that relationship area.
Yeah, so thanks for listening, guys, and we look forward to hearing from you.